what is it about 5 years being the magic number? Like, I heard people say 5 years before something happens. I don't know. Is it God? Is it the universe?
I don't know.
Is it Father Time going like, all right, hit him? Like, it was really, really cool because for the 5 years, like I said, I was uploading stuff to YouTube and Facebook, and friends and family are like, ha ha ha. You see what, Shama's kind of funny, and people at church be like, hey, I saw you do this video. It was kind of funny. But then after that video, it was like, hey man, you need to keep doing it. You know what I mean? It's like people going like, that was incredible. Well, how did you shoot that? How did you?
And then you probably had people, that was the first piece of content they ever saw, and they just assume you're new.
Yeah.
Like, check this guy. He just started, And they're like, and
like, buddy, you weren't with me. You weren't with me vlogging in my living room in 2013 to an audience of 40 people.
And 39 of them sent me messages telling me to get a job.
Yeah. That is very funny because that's true. Yeah. People were like, oh man, I just discovered you or whatever. I'm like, hey, thanks. But I've been at it for a minute. That was cool. I think that breakthrough moment, and it also came. I remember my dad was really ill, like it was like 2014, 15 through 17, and and he watched me, like he was on Facebook. He saw my videos and stuff, and he'd show people, or he didn't tell me about it or whatever. And that video hit, and I flew to Tanzania to see him because I was in college. No, I was out of college already. I was working. And then I had flown to Tanzania because we dropped it on whatever. I think we dropped it on Christmas Eve. And then I flew to Tanzania on New Year's Eve. And I remember my video, I was in Africa, my video hit 1 million views. And I'm like DMing, I'm like texting Andrew. We're going crazy. And he's like 8 hours behind because I'm in a different time zone. And I remember telling my dad, like, hey, my video hit 1 million. And he was like, I'm proud of you. And he passed away 3 days later.
Wow.
And so to me, there was this like, as a man with but it was cool. It was cool, especially being a father now, for my dad to know, hey man, remember all those times that you lent me your camera with the mini DV tapes, and I shot something and I plugged it into a TV and I rewinded it on the camera and showed it to you, and it wasn't good. And then I also borrowed your computer and I heated it up because I ran used all the RAMs to use Windows Movie Maker to make a really crappy, funny little silly video. It was cool to go like, hey, it paid off. It paid off. So
yep. And I mean, you experienced something there that's irreplaceable.
Oh yeah.
It's a powerful thing.
I'm thankful for that every day.
Yeah. Look, like my dad's still living, but my dad is like 8th grade dropout, School of Hard Knocks, trailer park hero, like, and I remember being a kid and hearing my dad tell stories about his childhood, and I'm like, bro, my dad's a soldier. Like, I'm not cool. And my dad's like, money, you got to hustle, you got to get money. And I never understood that perspective. And I realized when I got older, the reason was like, because he killed himself to make my life better than his.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't have the same. He grew up wanting. I grew up not lacking much. Like, and we weren't like wealthy, but I didn't have the same story. And I'd be like, and I was always a creative. So my dad's hardworking, and I got the work ethic 100% from him. And like some of the stuff he told me, like when I'm outside, like just raking leaves in the middle of summer, or like there wouldn't even be leaves. My dad'd be like, just rake the grass. I think it's thatch. You got to thatch the grass. And
Let's rake the grass.
Yes, just do something. And I remember being like, this dude's a lunatic. And I would have all these creative things, and I got into music, and I got into working in churches and all that stuff. And my dad would always be like, this isn't sustainable for you.
Yeah.
And we'd go back and forth, and he saw me do things, and like, and then same thing over the last few years, my dad kind of sat down and was like, dang, dude, like, you did it. Like, and I've got this family, and like, I'm very involved. And so like my dad, there was a moment there where I never heard that from my dad. I'll tell you, the first time I ever heard my dad tell me he was proud of me, it was the night before I got married. And that's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Like, I knew he was proud, but never hearing it.
Right.
And like in that moment, standing there, and I remember we were in a barn, and that is crazy. Barns are like, it's impossible for me to get away from it.
That's the circle. That's your circle of life, man.
Well, what's crazy is we were standing in the loft of a barn that was on his farm. That was like our man cave. Pool table up there, hanging out.
Yeah.
Is the night before the wedding. All my buddies are there, and my dad's like, he's a stone cold killer. And I just remember he's like looking all uncomfortable and emotional and stuff. Like, his son's getting married, and like he's trying to tell me stuff, and he's like choking up a little bit, and he's like, I'm proud of him. And I'm like, what? And what's wild is that place 2 or 3 years later, me and my wife lost everything in 2009, and had to sell our house, and my wife was pregnant, and like everything collapsed. I was in the construction field then, and doing commercial stuff, and like literally the world stopped moving in 2008, 2009. And I had bought a home. I couldn't afford it. I didn't have income. Couldn't figure out what was going on. The economy is just dead stifled, and I had to move home with my parents as a married guy. And I remember being like, "This ain't gonna fly. I can't do this." And so I went up to that barn, and me and my dad turned that into a house. And
wow,
me and my wife moved in that home, and our first daughter was born, and she passed away shortly after birth. And that barn on the hill has so many like core memories for me. Our first daughter we fostered in that barn. Like everything. Now my sister lives in that barn, and like it's massively nicer now. I tell her, I was like, that's the benefit of being the 8-year younger sibling. It's like it's twice as big and beautiful. And her and her husband got married and moved in there. Yeah. But like that barn on the hill is like a moment to where God was writing something. And it's just like, it just has carried over to like the Barndo Co. And then, like it's insane. Like I told my wife, I was like, we have ornaments that we hang on our tree every year. And like we have one from that year when we moved in that barn. It's like, life's better in the barn.